Before my diagnosis, I actually knew absolutely nothing about it. I'd never even heard of it.
My understanding and education around HIV was, I suppose, limited.
And I actually had quite a few gay friends, and you'd think that I would have known about it, but I just had no clue.
HIV was something that could be spread through any form of contact, not necessarily sexual.
My understanding of HIV would have been just the TV advertisements of the Grim Reaper.
I thought it was a dangerous disease and something to avoid at all costs.
A new issue, and it was just something that was there, you know?
Really wasn't related to us, was it?
No.
My initial response when I got diagnosed was basically I just took it as a death sentence. I went and researched on the internet and looked at the wrong information, and then went into self-destruct mode, so I turned to drugs and whatever else.
I was in London. I'd gone for a test for gonorrhea, which a new partner had tested positive for gonorrhea and said I should go and get a test. And whilst I was there, I thought I'll get a checkup as well. And I didn't have the gonorrhea, but I had HIV, and I was just... It was quite a meltdown.
When I was diagnosed in the year 2000, I just thought, oh well.
Initially, I was a bit stunned.
I used to think it was something that I was immune to because I'd gotten away with it for so long.
I was married at the time, and I did, after quite a few months, disclose to my wife, and she was the only one that I disclosed to for at least a year.
And then they suggested that I go and get tested. Well, didn't think for 1 minute. And then when we did, and it was double whammy. We just sort of got to initial kind of thinking that it was just Stephen, and at least I'll be here for Tanika, but
I was with a partner, and he had 2 children, and he was just a normal person. And he went to the sexual health clinic, and he had to go get tested for something, and then he told me that it was for HIV. But he assured me while he was waiting for the results that there was no way in the world I could have contracted it, women couldn't get it, and so I just believed him.
And Tanika must have only been 5 or 6 months old, I suppose, if even that. And it was just crying on the front door, holding it. What have we done? What have we done to you?
When I disclosed to her, she was quite shocked as well, and dare I say horrified.
Went to my mum and dad, and my dad said, and we sat them down and I said, Stephen and I are HIV positive. And my dad said, God bless him, beautiful man, said, the bloke at work's got the flu as well. I'll put the kettle on. And that's where it ended.
His response was quite different to mine. He actually broke it off with me. We'd been together for about 8 or 9 months. He broke it off with me. He disappeared off the face of the planet, and I've never heard from him, seen him, anything again.
I didn't tell any of my family at that time.
But after that initial reaction, she, I guess, accepted, but probably a bit in denial. Didn't really want to know. She said that she would support me, but didn't really want to get involved with anything, so I guess it was a passive support.
As far as when we were diagnosed, and that was 30 years ago, in 1987, we never even thought that we would be here now.
Well, I've been in a relationship with my current partner for 3 years. When I initially decided I would disclose to him, I was very apprehensive about his reaction.
Initially, it was I was shocked, but I didn't really get scared, and I felt there's a connection in that moment.
When we told Tanika, some people might think, why 21 years Do you know, I always worried about school. I thought you can't tell an 8, 10, 12, 15-year-old something, please don't tell anybody. That was always my reason. It was a huge burden.
You're also loading them up with a huge burden.
I haven't disclosed, so I haven't had any really bad reactions to it, and that's part of what I'm afraid of, so I find it easier not to tell people.
Honestly thought, okay, well, it's just another challenge. We will get through all of this.
It's happened to Wendy lots of times. You know, went to see a dentist, and everything was covered in plastic. The chairs, the place had been cleaned out of patients, and everything was door handle as she knocked on, went to open the door. The whole thing was all just covered up in plastic.
Yeah, I'm not open to very many people at all in my life about being HIV positive. Because of the stigma that still exists, I'm afraid to mention it to anybody else.
Several members of our family that were very much anti that kind of lifestyle.
When I went into Royal Perth, I was put out in the veranda, I wasn't with the other women. And the rain came through a little gap in the ceiling, and because it was a veranda, it was for storage of things, and I was getting wet, but I had HIV, that's where I belonged.
I actually made a big mistake. Firstly, I turned to my work because I was getting promoted through management, so I thought the first year I worked there, I had a few sick days, so I didn't want them to think I was just taking time off. So I actually went to my senior managers and I called a meeting and actually disclosed it to them in a private, confidential setting. Then what actually happened was my team leader went to the pub for work drinks, had a few too many. He talked to another team leader about what I had, and next thing you know, half my workplace knew.
When some of them would hear about the condition, they'd be like, "Oh, okay, well, that's a bit different, isn't it?"
I ended up having over 100 days off in a year unpaid because I just didn't want to go face a workplace. So they were kind of the only support I felt like I had until that actually happened, and then I lost my job, and yeah, that just made everything worse.
And another incident I remember at the old school, one of the girls said to me, I remember all the time that you used to go to the Court Hotel, it all fits in now. She was about 20, 25, and I said, fits in how? She said, with you being HIV and being with the gay people and that. And I thought, my goodness.
I had some bad experiences, and they led me to go to the West Australian AIDS Council, which was a saviour.
Unfortunately or fortunately, two ways of looking at it, I fell pregnant. We always wanted 6, 7 children. I remember a particular doctor at Royal Perth saying to me, what have you done?
30 years ago, I think people were scared to death of it, which they should have been, but I think that's left a really sour taste in people's mouths, and I just think that the word needs to get out there and people just need to be educated.
My mum had Tanika for the day because I came home, and Mum, you want to know? Oh, she knew that I was pregnant, where I went and all that. I have made a cake, and I remember she made a cake, so she was a bit in denial, didn't want to know. Cake made everything better.
And I think a lack of knowledge in the general society contributes a lot to the stigma.
But I do remember Stephen's dad saying, you know what you have to do. You don't know what you're going to do with this child, and that was the decision I decided to terminate.
That would probably be my only regret in my life.
Yep.
I don't regret the HIV, I don't regret anything else, but the fact that we ended up only with one child. Because not long after that, Karen had a baby, maybe 6 months ago.
She was
that, I suppose. Another positive woman,
and she had a baby, and the baby's fine. And
when I came to Australia in 2005, I felt out of the closet, as it were, as far as HIV was concerned. But my experience here in WA put me back in the closet after some years. Actually, I feel a bit emotional about that now. It's weird. But yeah. It was a shame. I felt it was, and I think it has affected me ever since.
Learning about it and that it was not a life-threatening disease anymore. It was able to be controlled and was able to live a normal life.
When we look back, Tanika just presumed every parent took 32 tablets in the morning, or that much. I'm exaggerating, but that's one good thing that has come out, is that we're down to 4 but we take vitamins. 4. That is amazing.
The first medication they put me on, which I can't remember the name of, but it gave me anxious dreams, almost nightmares. So quite soon I was taken off that and put onto another regime, as it were.
I started getting a little bit more confidence, but I didn't want to go on to treatment. I thought perhaps that I would be the one that may be able to control it myself without medication.
I decided to come off medications. I felt really positive about it. I was going to come off these medications. I was going to prove to the world that you could do this. I was going to be a pioneer and such. And so for about the first 3 weeks, I suppose I was on that high of, but after a while, within 6 weeks, I developed this awful pain all around my waist.
I was afraid of reactions and side effects and if I wouldn't be able to work. But thankfully, when I did start taking the treatment, I had a slight reaction for a few days, but it was okay. I could still continue to work and function normally.
So I said to Rick, okay, well, I'll go back on some medication. And so I did, and within 2 days that pain had gone.
About 2 years after I was diagnosed, after I got off my self-destruct mode a little bit, I went to go to the doctor, and I got to a level where they wanted to put me on medication. So I was on 3 tablets a day. That didn't agree with me, but I wasn't taking my medication properly either, which really jeopardised the medication working. So I stopped the medication and went back onto self-destruct mode.
The treatments have been fantastic, and the medical help we've had from Royal Perth and the Triple ID has been awesome.
Since I've been with my partner Michael, I take it every night, and I've been undetectable for about 2 years now.
And things feel all right now. I wouldn't recommend that anyone came off the medications from my experience.
Now I take it every day. I've been on the same treatment regimen for 5 years, and it's all good. It's just part of my daily routine now.
The key to it is just taking the medication correctly.
An undetectable viral load to me means I'm not infectious.
Well, moving forward with an undetectable viral load means I can try and have a baby, which is what I'm trying to do. So, I've already got a stepdaughter, but I do want a child of my own.
It would be very unlikely for me to be able to pass the virus on to anybody now, as long as I continue to take my treatment regularly and monitor the viral load.
It's a lot easier now, obviously, because I'm undetectable. As part of the viral load.
Most of the people that I know around me now who have HIV have got it all sorted out.
HIV will not kill me in any way. It'll be other, getting old, knee reconstruction or whatever.
We're all like a unique chemistry setting, so you've just got to get that. Well, the balance, you've got to get that equation sorted out.
Listening to our treating physician is always really important, because they're able to maintain a combination that's effective.
When I first found out I was undetectable, I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but it was about maybe a year ago. I come to the AIDS Council in Perth, and there was a magazine, and it had the undetectables on the front cover like they were superheroes. And since then, I've pretty much said I feel like a superhero, because it's like, I've beaten it kind of thing. It hasn't beaten me.
If I have somebody in my life who knows my status, that it changes. It must alter things. It must alter their way, their their view of me, I suppose.
Instead of them welcoming me into their homes, they would always put others as top of the food pyramid, and because of lifestyle, they would make me feel second or third rate.
Lost some members of my family. You haven't spoken to me since. That's okay. Yeah, well, we can't keep dwelling on it. And but never approached me about their issue. I did, but they just said, we want you to formally write an apology, because I told of an incident that we went to. It was the very first thing that ever happened to us. We went to a family function, and there was a table in the corner with plastic knives and forks, and that was for Stephen and I. We weren't to mix with the rest of the crowd at this restaurant.
As far as relationships on a romantic level or such, it hasn't happened.
HIV has affected my relationships. In the past, it's affected them in quite a negative way. Even like I thought it would bring even me and my mum sort of closer together, but it didn't. My mum kind of just still wants to think that I'm dying when I'm clearly not.
I was thinking the other day, is that because of my HIV status? And I don't think it is. I imagine that for some people it could be, but for me it's not. It's just that I haven't met anyone that I really wanted to connect with.
Our personal relationship, Wendy and mine, I think it's impacted there from a psychological point of view, with affection and our sexual relationship between the two of us. I think Wendy's taken it a lot harder, or made it a lot more complex than it needs to be made. You know, it's as if it's I've picked this up through sex, so that's naughty.
I've been with my partner Michael for 5 years this year. When we first met, I'd had bad experiences disclosing it, but I didn't want to hide it, so I was very afraid, but I told Michael about it. And when I told Michael, I encouraged him to ask questions, and I probably gave him too much information. He's still here. He didn't run away. He's actually probably the first person that showed that he actually cared. And Michael's been accepting of it from day one. He comes to appointments, and he's just there for me, and that means everything.
They had said, how did you get it? And we said, we don't know. I think I gave it to Stephen. I was overseas, had sex with a man, and unprotected sex. Stephen also had travelled and
Could have been one or the other, either or.
But we've been married for 32 years, and probably about 3 years ago in this conversation, he said to me after, I don't want you've been saying that all this time, that you think it was you. We don't know. And so I don't want you to say that, but I didn't realise that.
Once my marriage was ended, well, I had been on treatment and it had now finally become undetectable. I started meeting different people.
My sister's always been very prominent in my life. She's older than me, and so I did tell her within the first month of me being diagnosed.
My primary relationship initially was affected by my disclosure. This is before I knew that undetectable meant uninfectious.
Our relationship has been in a roller coaster, because I have been struggling with my inner challenges, and this journey in our relationship has helped me grow as a person. To be more compassionate, to be more open-minded. And yeah, I love him deeply.
looking back, I'd say that we wasted probably
5 or 6 years.
5 or 6 years of our lives of not telling an awful lot of people and just shutting down as we had a life sentence.
I've got a couple of really good relationships, and that's all that I need to look forward to the future. I've just left the negative experiences behind and trying to full steam ahead.
I am lucky that I've been in work environments where it's been okay for me to disclose.
With work, just about all my work colleagues know, the people I deal with at my suppliers know.
Up until now, I haven't worked again since then, so I was still quite depressed.
The worksite was involved in a lot of union activity, strike activity, this sort of stuff. And we were sitting in the sheds one day and one of the guys said, let's all go and, instead of just sitting around here playing cards, let's all go and donate blood, do something reasonable. And I thought, how the frickin' heck am I going to do this? How am I going to get out of this, 20 other electricians, maybe a few more, and me. And I couldn't turn around and say no, and because everyone was doing the right thing.
Then I went to work up in the mines, which was the completely opposite. And I was well in the closet there. I couldn't even come to terms with letting anybody know that I was gay. And so the HIV wasn't in my mind.
I've started seeing a lady at a job provider, and she's absolutely incredible. She said to me, like, what do you want to be when you're all grown up? And I'm like, well, actually I've wanted to use the HIV to do something good with it and educate people and whatnot. She got me into a course which is a diploma of counselling, which I'm now 3/4 of the way through.
The employer does know that I'm HIV positive. The gentleman who did all the recruiting said, like nowadays, because of all the Privacy Act, like 1988, and part of the confidentiality clauses, it's not necessary to disclose all of that, providing your doctor is able to present a letter that says, yeah, he's fit for work, he's fine.
At the school I was working at, about 2 or 3 sets of parents went to the headmaster and said, we want her removed from the school, and he said, no, I'll remove you. Wendy stays here. And there was a staff meeting and it all came out and it was just terrifying. And people weren't just supportive, amazing.
I was too focused on trying to be myself but trying to be someone else because I was trying to fit in.
And out of that came a very, very positive thing. A member of staff's had 4 boys. She went home and told the boys, and they still had unprotected sex. So this was maybe 5-6 years ago, and that brought awareness to them. So I thought, well, some good came out of it.
Because I'm self-employed, I don't have to disclose to anybody about my status. I haven't told my business partner. I don't feel the need to because there's no risk involved there.
I would never put myself in a situation again where I'm working for an organisation like I was when I was working in the Pilbara, where I couldn't be myself.
I've learned a lot about myself out of it, and it's been very different to when I last had a job.
We just get on with our work as normal.
I've never had any negatives about it, and if someone was negative, I'd probably tell them to go and get photographed.
I really just want to achieve getting the word out there to everybody. That is honestly what I want to achieve, and I also want to have a baby and eventually get a house because the caravan's quite cramped, but yeah.
Yeah, the future is really good. And as I've said before, you wouldn't want to be dead for quids. Life is just too good, even with HIV.
It's what I'm going to make it. And I really enjoy figuring people out and figuring out the whys of people's actions and such. And so I've enrolled in university at UWA and started a psychology degree at the beginning of this year.
There's things I want to achieve. One of them live to 80 or 90, which I don't think is going to be an issue. It won't be the HIV that gets me.
Well, I hope that I'm in his future because I didn't get a mention, but I don't know.
The future is quite bright for me. I look forward to the time when I can travel a lot more and see a lot of different parts of the world with my partner.
I'm 60 next month. I'm so goddamn happy that, not that I'm 60, but that I've got there. Like when you look back 32 years, wow.
I don't know where it's going to go, but I know it's going to go somewhere good. If I had to choose one word to say to somebody who'd been newly diagnosed with HIV, it would be acceptance.
I'd like to assure the community that it is not a life-threatening disease.
Open up and talk to people.
You're halfway there if you can accept that you have something in the first place.
To share with the entire community about living a healthy life to ensure that everyone will be fine in years to come.
If you open up to people, yes, there'll probably be some negative experiences, but they need to learn to deal with that, not you.
Tell everybody before you think of it as a death sentence, go and seek the right support and go and seek the right help and actually find out about it and know that you can live a normal life.
You know, looking back and just thinking at that time, it was quite amazing. We were very lucky that what we were doing and the people that we met on our journey.
And I believe that stigma, the root cause of stigma is the lack of knowledge and judgment and being too critical of other people's flaws or even one's own self.